So I'd like to invite Victoria. Oh, hi, you're already on the stage. Hi, Victoria. How are you doing?
Hi, good, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. So Victoria is with Rho Motion, and she's a battery analyst, and she'll be telling us about second generation batteries, looking at how to match the performance to market. So you have about 18 minutes. I will give you a reminder when your time is almost up, and then we have Q&A. So all the best to you.
Thank you very much. So hi everyone. To introduce myself, my name is Victoria Hugill. I'm a battery research analyst working at Rho Motion. To give you a bit of background about what Rho Motion does. So Rho Motion is a market analysis and consultancy house. So we produce a multitude of multi-client reports covering a number of areas across the green energy transition, including EV battery and charging, battery recycling, and battery energy storage systems. Within my role, I work across these various reports and the bespoke consultancy projects on the technical side of things. So prior to joining Rho Motion, I was actually a battery scientist, so I draw upon that experience and my knowledge in electrochemistry. So today in my talk, I will be covering the current status of the EV battery market, talking about some state-of-the-art technologies, and also giving an overview of some of the developing technologies. So to begin with, I'd like to give you an overview of the current state of the EV market and touch on a few important updates that we've seen recently. So over the last few years, we've seen compounded growth in the market of 50% year on year, with this trend continuing last year in 2022, despite the major headwinds related to supply chain issues, specifically within the semiconductor industry and slowing of production from COVID lockdowns. We're expecting some slowing of the growth in this year in 2023 related to the recessions, rise of cost of living, affecting people's likelihood to make large investments like those into an EV. Plus, we're seeing some issues in production ramp up from a number of OEMs, both from pure EV players who are experiencing large scale up for the first time, as well as the more traditional ICE developers that are now moving into the EV space. Looking at EV penetration rates by region, we can see that the Nordic regions are definitely leading the way. This is due to the extensive development of their charging networks within these regions and also tax and subsidies related to EV purchases. These are also the first regions where we've seen overseas expansion from the Chinese OEMs as kind of an ideal test case market for these developers, given the good adoption already. And obviously, it's clearly been successful as we're now seeing expansion to other areas of the world with the recent release of the Aura Funky Cat within the UK. So the penetration rates in China saw massive growth in 2022, and we do expect this to continue exponentially, likely overtaking Europe shortly, but we do expect this to reverse by the end of the decade. A lot of the growth that we see within Europe is driven by trying to meet these decarbonisation targets from the EU. Whereas in China, there is more of an end user demand for EVs. European markets definitely struggled last year in response to the war in Ukraine and disruptions in the supply chain hitting this overall market. When we look at how these EV sales translate in terms of gigawatt hour deployments and chemistry splits, we're seeing a significant growth in the cathode market share for LFP since 2021, up to over a third in 2022, and we expect this to continue to grow in 2023. This is reflective of the overall growth in the Chinese market, as this chemistry is heavily favored by the Chinese cell manufacturers and the Chinese OEMs. But we're also seeing increased interest in this chemistry from Western OEMs, with the likes of Tesla and Ford also using this chemistry in their EVs. Most recently, actually, Ford announced they're beginning a US factory where they will be producing LFP cells to use in their electric vehicles. They're going to be licensing the technology from CATL and developing from there. Within the anode sector, we continue to see this being dominated by graphite, with a combined market share of natural and synthetic taking up 95%. However, we are seeing some growth within the graphite and silicon share as the doping with silicon becomes more commonplace, especially within kind of these high-performance EVs where you need that energy boost from the additional silicon. The gigawatt hour growth that we see is in line with the EV deployment, with most of this coming from the light duty vehicle sector. But we are also seeing growth in the medium and heavy duty sectors as companies are now committing to electrifying their commercial fleets. and also with the launch of new models in this heavy duty sector